it is the story of a possible peace plan without Ukrainian input that is developing quickly tonight. According to a report by the U.S. media outlet Axios, the United States has been secretly working with Russia on a new draft plan to end the war in Ukraine. Now, it suggests the 28-point plan has been inspired by the U.S.-led push for a deal for Gaza. All of the points are not yet known, but according to the Reuters news agency, they include Ukraine relinquishing some territory, Kyiv giving up some weapons, and reducing the size of its armed forces. Reuters also reports that the U.S. has signaled to Ukraine that it must accept this agreement. Now, when asked about the Axios report, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov had this to say.
In this case, there are no innovations that could be reported to you. There were discussions in Anchorage, and in addition to what was discussed in Anchorage, there were no innovations yet.
No innovations yet, says the Kremlin, but there has been no let-up in Russian attacks on Ukraine, the latest coming overnight, with at least 25 people killed in a drone and missile barrage on the western city of Ternopil. More than 70 others have been reportedly injured. Officials say more than 470 drones and 48 missiles were launched in the strikes. Rescue workers have spent the day pulling people from the wreckage of residential buildings. DW Special Correspondent Mariel Müller joins me now from the Ukrainian capital. Mariel, it's good to see you. We've got two senior U.S. Army officials arriving in Kyiv. This in itself is rare, especially in the middle of a war. Do we know why they are there?
Yeah, exactly, Brand. The Army Secretary, Dan Driscoll, is leading the U.S. delegation, and with him is the Army Chief of Staff, George, and they are supposed to meet President Zelensky tomorrow here in Kyiv. And they could be discussing the reporting that you mentioned by Axios that has reported that Washington has been secretly working on a roadmap on how to end the war in Ukraine by also consulting Russia, and that has been going on for a while. Apparently, U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff has been leading the drafting of this plan, and he has been in discussion with the Russian envoy Dmitriev in October. Apparently, they were sitting down for 3 days in Miami when Dmitriev was visiting. And the plan consists, as you mentioned, of 28 points. It's not entirely known what they're about, but they fall generally into 4 categories. According to Axios again, peace in Ukraine, security guarantees, security in Europe, and future U.S. relations with Ukraine and Russia. And other outlets, as you mentioned, cited sources familiar with the talks that said that this includes Kyiv giving up some of its territory in return of U.S. security guarantees for Kyiv and for Europe against future Russian aggression. And also it includes Kyiv giving up some of its weapons and also cutting the size of its armed forces.
Mm-hmm. Mario, how are politicians and people there, how are they reacting to these reports of a U.S.-Russia peace plan that supposedly has been put together without Kyiv being at the table?
Well, Zelensky basically said we have received some proposals, some signals from the U.S., and we'll see what happens tomorrow. He didn't elaborate further, but it's important to know that U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff was expected to meet President Zelensky in Ankara, Turkey today, but this meeting never happened. And President Zelensky is certainly in a tight spot here because he doesn't want to be appearing as the side that is not willing to engage, not willing to talk. So he will certainly try to talk and engage with the Americans tomorrow and try to steer the conversations toward a better outcome for Ukraine.
DW Special Correspondent Mariel Müller with the latest from Kyiv tonight. Mariel, thank you. Well, our coverage continues now with Oleksiy Goncharenko. He's a member of the Ukrainian parliament for the opposition European Solidarity Party. Mr. Goncharenko, it's good to have you with us. I want to ask you, are you aware of a peace deal in the works by the U.S. and Russia?
Absolutely not. We just hear today there's some information in media, and it sounds for me a little bit like a Russian informational attack and some Russian informational operation. Because what I hear sounds like a surrender, which Ukraine does not deserve. Russia failed to achieve its military goals again this year, when they said that during summer offensive they wanted to take the whole Donbas area, and they failed completely. And especially the points which are mentioned about reducing of Ukrainian army, which is crazy, because the main guarantee for Ukraine, with all respect to all other guarantees, because we received in 1994 guarantees from United States and Great Britain when we voluntarily gave up nuclear weapons, and where are these guarantees today? So the main guarantee for Ukraine, as for any other country, its own armed forces. But that's exactly what Russia wants, to reduce Ukrainian armed forces to finish Ukraine in next attack, which Putin definitely is preparing.
Mr. Goncharenko, let me ask you, what do you know then about these two U.S. Army officials who are visiting Kyiv? I mean, have you been briefed on the purpose of their meeting?
No, unfortunately not. We are not briefed in the parliament. Tomorrow will be more information. I know that they will have some meetings tomorrow. So maybe we'll have more information. I welcome the fact that they are here in Ukraine. It's always good. We need as much cooperation with the United States as possible. But I want to once again say, I don't believe that United States will push Ukraine to surrender, because it's not in the interests, not of Ukraine, but not of United States too.
Well, what do you think is going on here? I mean, it sounds like President Trump has been working behind President Zelensky's back to put this deal together with Russian President Putin. Is that how you perceive this?
No. First, I'm not sure in this information. We heard during this full-scale invasion many times a lot of information which then was not confirmed. And I'm absolutely not against if President Trump, and I'm not just not against, we here in Ukraine, we want peace as soon as possible. Just today, as you already said, barbarian new Russian attack, 25 people killed, civilians, including children. Just imagine this. So we want this to end as soon as possible, but that should be a real end. And for the moment, I can't blame President Trump that he was pushing Ukraine to something unacceptable. And I hope he will continue to be in the mood to have a real peace, not a ceasefire in Russian interest. So I really want to thank President Trump for his efforts trying to achieve peace, but to achieve peace, this agreement should be in Ukrainian interest too. And I think he realizes this.
Well, Mr. Goncharenko, there are reports tonight that say that the U.S. has signaled to President Zelensky that Ukraine must accept this agreement and its main points. Now, if these reports are true, I mean, this sounds like President Trump is giving Zelensky an ultimatum, take this or, deal with the consequences.
The main word is if this is true, which I am absolutely not sure about. Once again, these will not work. There are things which are unacceptable for Ukrainian society. And it doesn't matter even to imagine that President Zelensky, I don't know why, but if to imagine that he agrees on some things which are unacceptable for Ukrainian society, that will lead us to nowhere. And in this case, President Trump can risk to receive his own Afghanistan with a collapse and complete. And then the question will be from American taxpayers, where did we spend many billions of American dollars when we supported Ukraine? And in the end, we just gave up them. I mean, I don't believe in this. I believe that President Trump knows that Ukrainian success in protection of its independence is in the best interest of the United States too.
Do you think that the president, the U.S. president, sees the corruption scandal that is rocking Ukraine and President Zelensky? Do you think that he sees that as an opportunity to force a bad deal on President Zelensky? I mean, is your president, is he weak right now because of the scandal at home?
Definitely, Zelensky is now weaker because of the scandal at home. Definitely this is a bad story, all this scandal. But once again, Ukraine is a democratic country. President Zelensky is not Russian Tsar or like Putin in Russia, who is Tsar and emperor and dictator. So, if we want to have any agreement, Ukrainian society should accept this agreement. There are things which are acceptable for Ukrainian society. There are things which are not.
Yeah.
So I believe that President Trump understands this and Americans understand this.
What about if we have a situation where President Zelensky is backed into a corner by President Trump and President Putin? If that does happen, should President Zelensky, should he resign instead of accepting a bad peace deal?
If the question will be like this, definitely any politician should choose country first, then the power, if he is a real patriot. But once again, I think that this information is not verified. Mm-hmm. I don't believe that such plan can be pushed. Maybe there is such Russian proposition. That's what they pushed all the time. But it doesn't mean that it is supported by the United States. So we need to explain what is acceptable for us, what is not, and we need to really push to peace, but which is acceptable for Ukrainian society.
Oleksiy Goncharenko for the opposition European Solidarity Party, member of the Ukrainian Parliament. Mr. Goncharenko, we appreciate your time and your valuable insights tonight. Thank you.